Well, welcome, Madridistas. How are you all doing? We're going to talk about what Vinicius said before the match between Brazil and Morocco, which marks the start of Brazil's journey in this 2026 World Cup. For me, this is the group stage's top match, along with Portugal versus Colombia, which is going to be great. There's also France versus Norway, which is very interesting, and Spain versus Uruguay. But anyway, this is the first big match, right? Brazil versus Morocco. Don't underestimate Morocco. They might just pull off the first upset of the World Cup. Well, the thing is that Vinicius has spoken about Real Madrid, and he said something that has already raised some doubts. Not so much for me, but I don't know. There's something in the air with Mourinho's arrival. Don't tell me in the comments. Don't try to stir things up. Sorry, let's go back to February. Remember what Mourinho said throughout the whole episode. Hate Cristiani, Vinicius. Remember. And I think there's been little talk, considering how much could have been said, about Mourinho's arrival at Real Madrid and his relationship with Vinicius, who probably wasn't happy about it. He probably wasn't happy about it. And today they asked him about the renewal. And he said something that, as you'll hear now, doesn't leave me very reassured about there being no problem with the renewal. If there were no problems, Vinicius would have renewed already. I think we all agree. The fact is, what he said, which I'm not going to reveal to you, let's talk about that, because what's happening with Barça is unbelievable. It's amazing. Today in the previous video, check it out if you haven't seen it. We were talking about this article from The Objective where, it discusses the key evidence. There is a written document in which the Federation was notified about the name Negreira, of course, and the tax agency. The Spanish tax agency was investigating the former vice president of the referees. Almost 2 years before, 16 months before the case broke out, and the Federation hid it. They hid it even though they were handling a perfectly clear document with the name of Negreira. And later, when a press conference was held after the case broke out, it wasn't mentioned. It's all in the video, which I won't repeat now. They didn't say it was about Negreira or that they knew it was about Negreira. Of course they knew, but they hid it. It's been proven. And to make matters worse, there's the change in the Federation's code of ethics in the spring of 21, with a series of very strange moves there. Very strange. After being proclaimed the acting president of FC Barcelona football in that spring of 21, then vice president or on the board of directors of the Spanish Football Federation, and suddenly, poof, the code of ethics disappears. Well, on the day when this, which should be a huge scandal, a massive one, isn't, it turns out that Barça dares to sue Florentino Perez. Well, not sue him for everything. Barca's statement reads as follows. Football. FC Barcelona informs that today the required conciliation lawsuit has been filed, which is a preliminary step. Either you withdraw or you retract. Either you retract what you've said to Florentino Perez, or we will file the lawsuit, right? As it says here, a preliminary conciliation proceeding before filing a criminal complaint. It would be a criminal complaint for the crime of slander under Article 205 of the Penal Code against Real Madrid president Florentino Perez, following his own statements at the press conference. Historic, I'm the one adding the word historic, on May 12th, and in an interview with the media outlet the following day. Well, not in the interview with Pedrerol, right? No? Well, when I say historic, it's because that press conference really was historic. And in this, I absolutely agree with Florentino. In this, and in a few other things as well that day, because deep down he was right. The way he said it was another matter, but anyway. Let's not go back to that. The purpose of this lawsuit is for Mr. Perez to retract certain statements he made knowing they were false and which are slanderous and offensive to the image and reputation of the club. If this lawsuit is not properly addressed, Football Club Barcelona will proceed to file the corresponding criminal complaint. Criminal complaint? Do you remember? Look, speaking of Pedrerol, precisely when he was announcing to Iñaki Angulo without saying his name, a criminal complaint. What happened with Pedrerol's criminal complaint against Iñaki? Do you remember? He withdrew from the legal proceedings. He didn't want to go any further because he knew he was going to lose, right? By the way, Barça also did the same to Iñaki. And in the end, it all came to nothing. And here, well, like someone said today on Twitter, that's it. They're complaining. The corrupt club is complaining about being called corrupt, right? That's something. Well, that's what someone said. That's what someone said. But honestly, you can't really speak well of a club that paid the second in command of the referees 8.4 million over 20 years. You know, that those of us who have, well, a platform, we have to be careful about certain things. But what all those complaints from Barça against journalists and YouTubers and so on, where did they end up? Well, yes, Iñaki, who went the furthest, right? The one who went furthest mainly due to insults, etc. But what about the rest? What happened to the famous mailbox they told Sosi about? Sosi, send us the names of those speaking badly about us and so on. Where are all those? Where are they? Well, anyway, that's it. On the day it became known that the federation hid this because the federation, the higher sports council, the professional football league, all of them hid it in one way or another. I mean, Albert Soler worked for the higher sports council and had previously been at Barça. In some way, they hid the Negreira case to save private Barça. And lately, they're either whitewashing it or trying to minimize it and so on. So that if there's a loophole, even if it's not the criminal route, even there, the lawyers from the league and federation ask 1 or 0 questions, right? They're also trying to prevent anything from happening, even though they're part of the prosecution. Still, if any loophole remains, not through an administrative route, but through an ethical one, so that this ends up being forgotten, and to sweep it under the rug, to hide it away. Well, they're trying to do that, and that's pretty clear. But the decisive step was, as I said, the one in the spring of 21 when they eliminated that code of ethics from the Spanish Football Federation. The previous video explains everything with the Objectives article. Well, on the day we find all that out, does Barça dare to send this pre-lawsuit conciliation filing to Florentino Perez? And wait, to ask for the 2029 Champions League final, to present their bid to host the 2029 Champions League final. With UEFA now being informed of many things they didn't know, and on which, well, Barcelona's future depends. Because if UEFA, which is what they should have done years ago, by the way, and it's not out of the question that they might do it this summer, but I'm starting to think it's too late now, for sure. If it occurs to them not to invite them to the next Champions League, Barca will collapse. But, well, that's something we have to see. That's something our eyes have to see, right? Anyway, well, let's move on to Vini's thing. Let's talk about Vini. I have it here. Vini said this when he was asked about his contract renewal with Real Madrid.
There will be a lot of Madrid fans watching you in this World Cup, your games, and supporting, cheering you on as well. Can you tell them that you are going to renew your contract? What will Vini answer to this, right? Totally out of context.
Of course, I'm with the national team, either about or Madrid.
I'm going to talk about it when I get back to Madrid. I'm with the national team.
I'll talk about everything Madrid related next season.
And when I get back to Madrid,
when the season ends or when the season starts,
I'll handle it after the season with the players and focus on the next one. For now, I'm focused on my country and I'm focused on this competition.
All right, Vinicius can answer this perfectly. Hey, you're asking me about my club now, but I'm here with the national team. I'm at the World Cup right before my first match, the match where Brazil makes its debut. He can answer it perfectly. Whenever asked about renewing with Real Madrid, Vinicius always says it's his club for life and he wants to stay. This could have been resolved earlier, but he always says that. And today he's not saying that. And maybe we're here reading too much into it, but today I don't see that. Will it have an influence? And I'm asking you, will the fact that Mourinho is coming have an influence? And maybe Vinicius isn't completely sure about the presence of the Portuguese coach. What do you think? Tell me, because I don't know. What is clear is that, well, if Vinicius wants to run out his contract without renewing with Real Madrid, there will be 12 months left. But soon when the World Cup ends, there will be 11 months left. For his contract to end, if he intends to leave things as they are and not renew, I think that he can do whatever he wants. But Real Madrid can't afford the luxury of letting Vinicius leave for free. They just can't allow it. He's waiting to have a great World Cup so that when he comes back from the United States, Mexico, and Canada, he can say, "Gentlemen, look at the World Cup I've had. Now, yes, I've been asking you for this for a long time. You need to nail this down for me." I mean, a lot has to change. A lot has to change for Real Madrid to give Vinicius what he's asking for. Anyway, he's using the World Cup card. But when the World Cup is over, for better or worse, either accepting what Madrid has already offered him, or if he's in control because he had a great World Cup, he can say, "Hey, pay me what I'm asking for." And if Madrid agrees, well, then it will be a negotiation that will have to be resolved this summer. Because I don't consider any other possibility. Speaking of the players Mu wants out, Mu is counting on Vinicius, of course. Come on, no, nothing else has come out, but my colleague, Miguel Serrano, El Látigo, mentioned it in a video this morning. I don't know when you'll be watching this, but it was a video from Friday morning saying that Mourinho already had a report from Arbeloa on who had behaved badly, who had behaved well, players who have destabilized the locker room, etc., and had passed it on to his good friend Don Jose. And of course, there are some players who don't come out looking good. Well, Miguel was talking about Asensio, that Mourinho doesn't want him. Mourinho wouldn't want him. We're speaking hypothetically. Partly maybe because the Portuguese coach thinks he isn't at the required level. We're talking about assumptions. Partly because it's true that Asensio had an issue with Arbeloa this past spring, at the beginning of spring. Careers, I don't want Carreras. I would want Mourinho. He could be a good substitute, but understand that, or he would understand that Frank Garcia would be a better substitute because, well, it's a personal matter of, well, accepting a certain role in the team. And maybe from a personal point of view, Carreras could be more problematic. It seems like it too. It seems like it. Therefore, I would want him out because for a guy you paid 60 million for last year, how do you sell him now? Of course, Ceballos. Franco, whether I want it or not, it's not that I want him to be sold. Besides, that's up to Real Madrid. And I think Real Madrid had already planned to loan him out. Camavinga, who is holding on to his contract, who doesn't want to leave Real Madrid, but Mourinho is said to have told him that he doesn't count on him. The same with Gonzalo. But with Gonzalo, there's a particular situation, which is that since Hendrik is coming back, and Hendrik already had to leave to score goals and then return, and maybe Gonzalo will have to do the same. And then there's the situation with Brahim, who Mourinho might not be too impressed with, but he also wouldn't be too unhappy if he stayed. And Valverde, well, Mourinho would want him, but Real Madrid, ever since that serious incident with Tchouaméni, the club might be considering selling him. And that's something I still have to see. I mean, it's already been said from within that Valverde will continue to be captain. And now with Carvajal's absence, he becomes the first captain, and that's it. I haven't gotten any indication from them, unless they're keeping it very secret. No message from the club of losing confidence in Fede, or that they're going to take away his captaincy, or that they don't trust the player. There was some displeasure at the time, of course, but I don't think so. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, but I don't think that's going to happen. So that's the situation. Of course, a lot of players need to leave because new players are coming in. Konate, Dan Fritz, Bernardo Silva, and more that I expect and understand will arrive. Well, that's it for now, guys. Hope everything goes well for you. Give a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, share, hype up the video. It really helps. And that's it. This Saturday is Brazil versus Morocco and more matches. You already know that we keep commenting on Real Madrid's current events, which also ties into the World Cup content. Because it's inevitable since we have our own representatives in the teams competing in this World Cup. And of course, everything that's happening in this World Cup. All right, see you in the next one. Thanks for being there. Have a good rest. Bye.